Now we're going to move on to player power rankings, my favorite segment, because it is the segment where I get to put my neck on the line. And most people watching this will have a lot of different ideas to me in the comments. So I'm going to list my top five to one. And Andy and Nick, I want you to add anybody else. But I just want to say off the bat here, there are a lot of honourable mentions this week because there were so many players that deserve to be in this top five. So number five, I'm going to have Heung-min Son from Tottenham, which probably raises a few eyebrows. He scored 4 goals, obviously clinical. And I just haven't seen, it was weird, right? It was like watching a replay over and over again. There was very similar, the goals, but he just feasted on that Southampton defensive line being so high. And it was like watching Son 2 seasons ago, probably. Really is back to his best. And maybe that's a bit harsh because throughout all the changes at Tottenham, he's been the one constant that you can really rely on. So yeah, Son for me is at number 5 this week. Number 4, I'm going for another Spurs player, Harry Kane, 4 assists. A new entry into our rankings and the power rankings this week. And that role as creator, I just think that was sensational. Mourinho again came up and said that Kane should have been the man of the match instead of Son because the way he really carried Spurs through that second half. Let's not forget, they were 1-0 down to Southampton. They were struggling a little bit. They were letting in Southampton create a lot of chances, and Kane just kind of took that game by the scruff of the neck. He got his goal as well, but those 4 assists to me showed he's got that extra dimension to his game back. And alongside Son and Bale, he can really wreak havoc this season. So number 3, Kevin De Bruyne. Scored a penalty kick. It was at the heart of Man City's win against Wolves. Hungrier than ever for me. And De Bruyne was probably the most disappointed Man City player when they lost to Lyon in the Champions League. I really feel like for him, time is running out a little bit in comparison to Raheem Sterling, Phil Foden, Laporte, Edison. They still feel probably like they've got another 8-9 years of Man City being, at the top of the game if they're still there. But De Bruyne now, not getting any younger, but he is just maturing like a fine French wine, the Belgian playmaker. And I love everything about his display against Wolves. I really did. Even to set up the chance and win the tackle in stoppage time for Gabriel Jesus to score. It shows that he is an absolute machine. And we talk about his wonderful passing, creativity, but his hunger, for me, is right up there with the very best in the world. Talking about the very best in the world, number 2, James Rodriguez scored his first Everton goal, lovely goal, and that wonderful ball to Digne on the left for Dominic Calvert-Lewin to score. I just think he made the entire Everton offense click against West Brom. He did it against Tottenham as well. And it's a rare player, right, when you get him on the ball and everyone around him seems to be better. That's what I love about him. Always seems like he has so much time as well, which again is a great sign of a good player. How many times do you hear that? He always knows where 2, 3, 4 options are. And Ancelotti gave him that big bear hug when he came off. And I think as long as James stays fit, Everton fans everywhere are dreaming of, a top 6, 7 finish. And as long as they stay solid at the back and Pickford has a good season, then I think they'll be okay. So my top player in the power rankings this week is Sadio Mane at Liverpool. 2 goals, desire to score that second one, wonderful header for the first, never ever gives up. If there was ever a Jurgen Klopp player that epitomised this style, it's Sadio Mane. And I think, lads, he's underrated. I really do. In terms of Salah and Firmino get a lot of the plaudits. But for me, Mane, I saw a stat that said he's now scored more goals than Fernando Torres for Liverpool and did it in a lot fewer games as well. And to think of the legendary status that Torres had and the teams that he was playing for then at Liverpool had Gerrard and Xabi Alonso feeding him chances game after game. So Mane, for me, consistently one of the best players. I voted for him in my Football Writers Player of the Year award last year. And I think he's going to be right up there with the best players in the Premier League this season. So quickly to run through my honourable mentions, Fabinho at Liverpool, Patrick Bamford, Tariq Lamptey, Wilfred Zaha, and Calvert-Lewin scoring a hat-trick. I've run through a lot there, lads. Any holes in that? Anything you want to agree with, disagree with? Nick, go ahead.
Yeah, no holes, but 2 guys I want to highlight because I think they deserve a mention. Richarlison is a special player. And last year that he was asked to do so much on his own, and the midfield's helping him. Calvert-Lewin is helping him. And I believe I read somewhere he is second to Traore in successful dribbles this year, 13. Also saw that he's got 7 tackles. So he's playing with an edge and attitude. Remember, Ancelotti said last year he thinks he can be a 30-goal player in all competitions. So him. And then I haven't given this guy enough credit, maybe because he's a lone player last year as well, but Dani Ceballos was phenomenal. And he unlocked West Ham for that eventual goal, had over 120 touches or something like that. I just thought he was absolutely wonderful in that game.
Yeah, he's good. Andy, anything to add?
Yeah, tough week to score a hat trick and not even make it into the top 5 for Dominic Calvert-Lewin. I understand why, because you've got a couple of weeks of body of work for Sadio Mane and James Rodriguez, and then you've got Kane and Son coming in and doing what they did this week. And so I get it. Very, very tough, poor weekend to choose to grab a hat trick for Dominic Calvert-Lewin there. But I would also like to say, while some people may have forgotten that is what Harry Kane does when he is at his best, is drop in and create chances. I have not forgotten. It is the injuries that have robbed him the last couple of years of the ability to do that. He's essentially been kind of rendered as a poacher, kind of just in the box. Somebody just get on the end of chances, crosses in there, and that's all he's been able to do physically because of the injury. And I actually think that having 3 or 4 forced months off during this year due to the pandemic allowed him to finally reach full health and fitness in a way that he's not been able to do. He's been rushed back from injury too many times. And so I would not be surprised at all if we see next week Harry Kane at 2 or 3, maybe a couple weeks after that they can cool off a little bit, maybe Harry Kane at 1. This looks like it's going to be a very good season from Harry Kane just because he looks like he is healthy and fit for the first time in it's been about 3 years, really, since he's been at his best.
All aboard the Tottenham bandwagon. Absolutely. Mourinho is leading the charge. And I have to say that, honestly, this was one of the toughest weeks to ever do the power rankings. Top 5, there could have been 25, 30 players that really deserve to be up there in terms of the individual performances. Again, a lot of bad defending out there, but the attacking players, they certainly made the most of that in that record-breaking weekend across the Premier League.
Hi there, I'm Rebecca Lowe. Make sure you subscribe to watch highlights all season long and always join us every weekend at 7 a.m. on NBCSN for Premier League mornings. Plus, make sure you subscribe to Peacock Premium as well, where you can watch exclusively live 175 games and same-day on-demand replays of all 380 Premier League matches as well.